guys, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a little less of a fun-ish video, and I'm talking about my my disappointing reads of 2018. Now, this is in no way supposed to be a shady video. I found that these books, some of them I actually did give fairly okay ratings. I think the highest is about a 3. And the reason why I put these on my disappointing list was because there was something missing that I felt. I genuinely didn't like where the plot was going, the characters, so on and so forth. But if you enjoyed these books and found them wonderful and magical, A-okay for you, that's perfectly fine. I just found that these books were lacking in some departments, which is why they made it on this list. And to kind of save any potential egos of people who actually did enjoy this book and thought that it shouldn't be on this list, I'm not going to be putting them in a category or like no particular order. There is no like number 1 is my most disappointing read of 2018. No, they're just kind of jumbled up. So enough with the long intro, let's just get started. Oh, and also I don't have any of these books on me because some of these books are either in a bin somewhere or I have thus decided to unhaul them, which a video of that will be coming out sometime soon. And we'll be finding a better home elsewhere, so yeah. So the first disappointing book that I read in 2018 was actually Unforgiven by Lauren Kate. This is a kind of spin-off novel to the Fallen series, and here we get to follow Cam as he finds his way back into hell trying to save the girl of his dreams, and is given, I believe, 14 days to make her fall in love with him again, or else he has to serve Satan, or slash Lucifer, slash the devil, again like he did all those years ago. Now, I don't remember the rating I gave this book, but I do remember reading it, and I was so excited when it first was announced, so excited when I finally picked it up, but as I read through it, I felt like it just kind of ruined a lot of Cameron's characterization, I suppose, and it's not something that I enjoyed. I felt like he turned more into Daniel, and Daniel on his own is a very fleshed out character. I enjoyed reading about him, but I didn't want to read a Daniel 2.0. I liked Cameron as a character where he was, and then adding this weird love story kind of ruined a lot of his characterization and what made him an interesting character for me, and overall I could live without it. The next book that I thought was kind of disappointing was The Third Twin by CJ Imololu. Now this follows 2 twins, I believe Ava and Alexis slash Lexi, and when they were younger they made up this third twin. I forgot her name, Alicia I believe, and they used Alicia to kind of get away with things they wouldn't have. You know, it was kind of cute, like, oh no, I ate an extra cookie, it was Alicia, it was blah 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 blah. But now that they're older, they use her as a cover-up to, to get away with things they wouldn't, go to parties they shouldn't be going to, kiss boys they shouldn't be, until one night when one of Alicia's dates ends up dead, and neither of the twins were actually there at the time of death. So now we get to see kind of who this third twin is. Is Alicia real? Is it one of the twins committing it? That stuff. I thought the premise of this book was really great. I wanted to read more, I'm moving to the side, more YA thrillers. I don't read enough of them, and YA is a genre that I genuinely adore and like love to read, as you guys can clearly tell. So to read a YA thriller was actually, this is my first YA thriller, so I had very high hopes for it, and I was very disappointed. I felt like while the plot was interesting, or the premise of the plot was interesting, there wasn't a lot of fleshing out. I couldn't see the twist at the end was kind of anticlimactic. It wasn't the most enjoyable thing to read. And then there was a weird, annoying love story that didn't necessarily belong there, I don't think, and could have been done without. So, just did not enjoy it. I think that if there had been giving more page time and maybe more time to develop the characters, the love story, and the overall idea of the twist at the end, it would have been more interesting. But as it stands right now, not very interested in it. The next one that I found was not that great in 2018 was Dividing Eden by Joelle Charbonneau. I can't pronounce it, I'm really sorry, I'm trying, it's not working. But this is about 2 twins, Andreas and someone else. It'll come to me eventually. And essentially they were never in line for the throne, and that is until their brother and father were killed in war, and they are kind of stuck trying to, what first was supposed to be an easy decision turns out to become a competition to who wins the throne, and it becomes a kind of kill the twin situation. And I was really intrigued in this. I thought it was very Three Dark Crowns, but with just twins instead of the genuine triplets. I wanted to see a stronger kind of sibling relationship. Since Three Dark Crowns, those girls were separated at the beginning. But overall, I was really disappointed. I thought that what was advertised as a kind of strong sibling bond turned out to be really weak and easily fractured. There were some weird love twists that went away, and like one of the main characters just didn't seem to have a lot of common sense. They didn't have a lot going on there, so it was not enjoyable. And I do want to finish the duology because the second one was actually what intrigued me into the first book. But after reading the first book, I probably will take my time to read said duology. So the next one is actually one that I'm like hesitant to say because this author is so well loved in every aspect, and that is Lissy's Story by Stephen King. Now this follows Lissy, who was the wife of a very well-known and well-loved author until he died, and she's kind of stuck picking up the pieces of his relationship and his lies and all that stuff happening and his own demons while kind of dealing with her own. And overall, I was really intrigued by this. I thought there was going to be like some weird kind of supernatural element, and I guess in some cases there were. Some kind of weird psychological element, and I guess in some cases there were. But I felt like kind of Lissy's headspace wasn't that great. I didn't like being in her head at all. I felt like she was a very, very, very flat character. I didn't see a lot of change. And some of the things that she kept relating back to her husband was just really shitty. Like, I remember her thinking about like how her husband said that no one wants to look at an old woman's breasts anymore, so she should cover up. And I was just like, why are you in love with this man? So, not my favorite Stephen King book out there. Great if you enjoyed it. Kudos to you. But for me, nah. The next one that I read was actually fairly recently, like a few months ago, and you guys will know if you had watched some of my wrap-ups, and that is Beast by Bree Sprengler. Now this follows, I forget his name, which I shouldn't because it's right here. Haha, this makes things easier. Now this follows Dylan, and he's kind of not your average 15-year-old. He's super tall, super muscular without trying, and really just kind of covered in hair. He's not conventionally handsome by standards, and after the day when his school decides to ban hats, he kind of falls off the roof and ends up in a therapy session, like a group therapy session, to talk about depression, where he meets Jamie, who he quickly falls head over heels for without realizing that Jamie is transgender. So he kind of has to find a way to navigate this new relationship, his kind of feelings, and what that means for his sexuality. Now if you guys have seen my review on this in Goodreads or my wrap-up, I actually enjoyed this book. I thought that a lot of the things, there were a lot of good stuff going on. It does bring up kind of this question of sexuality, but there's not a lot of education on that situation, and like people don't know how to deal with that. So it was really interesting to see kind of that aspect of the relationship coming from Dylan's perspective. But overall, what made it disappointing to me was that Dylan didn't seem to grow really per se. He seemed very stagnant, even as he like figured out his own flaws and saw what his own problem was in like relationships and whatnot, and his own familial drama and friendship drama. He still didn't grow from that. He was still very much stuck in his own head, and I did not enjoy it. I thought at the end of the book that Jamie deserved better and that Dylan needed to work on himself more. So I just felt like there was something kind of missing there. But what are you gonna do? The next book that I was very disappointed with was actually Every Day by David Levithan. I wanted to read this before the movie came out, but never saw the movie. But this follows A, who in every aspect of the sense is kind of just there. They wake up every morning in a different body, regardless of gender, race, sexuality, body shape, and all that, until the day they meet Rhiannon, who is this wonderful girl who they fall head over heels for after going on a date while A is in Rhiannon's boyfriend's body. And during that time, they find more reasons to stay. Now, I thought this book was going to open up a lot about like the question of gender and sexuality and all that stuff, and then as I read it, there were so many things wrong that I found. I thought that A, despite however long they had been alive, would have more knowledge on this stuff and more understanding, since, you know, they wake up in a different body every single day. However, towards the end of the book, especially when A realizes their feelings for Rhiannon, it became very stalkery, very possessive. It just wasn't a positive situation, and Rhiannon herself felt very flat. I didn't enjoy reading her character. And then there were a lot of, like, I felt kind of homophobic comments there. There was some fat shaming. There was some transphobic comments thrown in there. And it just didn't seem like there was a lot of growth on any of the characters' parts. And I just did not enjoy it in the slightest. I thought there were other books out there that explained this kind of topic more. And once I read the book, I didn't feel like watching the movie, safe to say. And I don't feel like picking up any of the other books, honestly. And the last kind of disappointing read was actually Dear Martin by Nick Stone. This follows Justice, who's kind of straight A student, who didn't have a problem with anything until one day he's helping out a friend or an ex-girlfriend who is kind of intoxicated and finds himself face down on the sidewalk with is being handcuffed. So he goes on this project to kind of say, like, what would Martin Luther King Jr. do and all this stuff, and writes letters to him. And this book is told in several kind of with letters, epistolarian style? Epistolary? Something like that. In that similar fashion, but also some mixed media here and there. And overall, I was interested, and I did enjoy reading this book, so it wasn't like a terrible kind of book. It was just like, it just needs work. And I enjoyed the book. I thought there were plenty of interesting messages. Since we don't see a lot of YA, it's told from the perspective of a boy. They're mainly females with like boy perspectives thrown in there, but especially for contemporary, it's typically just a female perspective. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to have, especially considering that it did involve a black teen. So I was really intrigued by that. I thought that did bring up a lot of like interesting conversations. My biggest problem was that some of the writing style just didn't fit for me. There were just like some moments where it would cut in between like prose and then all of a sudden go straight into script, and it was just so jarring. I couldn't feel any kind of emotion going into it, and I felt like while there were interesting things that need to be expanded on throughout the book, there wasn't a lot of information leading up to that. I felt like had Nick Stone been given more page time to kind of expand her novel and make it a little thicker, I think that would have made it a better novel than it already is, because I felt like it was just missing something. But that is it for my disappointing reads of 2018. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone. I tried to be very kind in what I was trying to say. So hopefully, but if you read any of these books and felt similarly or felt they shouldn't have been on this list, we can have a nice discussion, polite discussion down below. If you wanted to read these books and wanted more of my thoughts on them, I think some of these do have tea talks, but if not, I do have wrap-ups and Goodreads reviews, and I can also just kind of explain my thoughts more in the comments as well. So if you guys want to talk more, social media links will be down below. Until then, subscribe and like these videos. I upload twice a week, so just subscribe and you won't miss anything. But until my next video, I'll talk to you guys kind of everywhere else. Bye!